In your journey from Oakland to Richmond to in the music scene to driving the van to teaching young kids golf, at the golf course.
And I can say at one point in my life, I was going to more funerals than birthday parties.
Yeah.
If there is one thing that you can share or look back in your journey that you could change, would you change anything?
Welcome. You're watching Two Doc Minds, and today we have a special guest, Preston Pinkney. We're excited to have him on the show. We're going to be dropping more content in the future. We're going to also try to get to that 100,000 subscribers. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so that you can get that content soon as it drops.
Yes.
I'm Dr. J.
I'm Dr. C.
And welcome to a Two Doc Minds. So today we have a special guest on our show, Preston Pinkney. We're going to call him P for the show. You don't mind that, right?
It's all good.
All right. So we're excited to have him. So we're first going to give you a little bio about Preston.
Yes.
And then we're going to jump right on into it because let me just tell you this. This brother's story is very impactful, very inspiring. It's just going to motivate us to make sure that no matter what obstacles we face, that we're going to get over that hump and we're going to keep on pushing. So let's hit that bio.
Yes, thank you for that, Dr. J. As Dr. J mentioned on a Two Docs Mind, we like to interview a lot of people who inspire the everyday person, the person, the unsung hero in our society that we often overlook, often don't get to see. And Preston is one of those people. So just to give you a short bio of who Preston is. Preston, he's a native of the Bay Area. So Preston, leveraging over 2 decades of experience, passionately advocating for Bay Area youth. He has an extensive background in fundraising, leadership, program development, and he has a very positive impact on, he has a history of impacting Bay Area youth for over several decades. Through some initiatives like the Pinkney Foundation and collaborations with organizations like Eat, Learn, Play, he has actively contributed to youth development. So beyond that, in his professional leadership, he enjoys quality time with his family and attending sports events, traveling, and golfing, of course, which we will get into more during this interview in Northern California.
So, Preston, look like you about your business.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's been a labor of love. Been very blessed over my life, and it's great to help youth become positive and productive citizens of the community.
That's what I'm talking about. So we just going to jump right in it. Preston, we're going to really want our audience to know a little bit about where you come from. So you were born in Oakland, raised in Oakland and Richmond. Tell us about that experience coming from some of the toughest communities in California, United States, and just being able to persevere. Tell us a little bit about that experience, Preston.
Yeah, so my family has roots here in Oakland. My father, he graduated from St. Mary's, grew up on 61st Street, right across the street from Bushrod Park. And, the family still owns a house there. My mom, she went to Skyline High School, grew up in the Rock Ridge area. And I just remember being a young kid, a child, and we moved from Oakland to Richmond, where, I spent most impressionable years of my life. I had both parents until I was about 10 years old, and there was a separation. And, then things kind of changed a little bit. And I don't know, how it is for everybody, but when your parents break up, it makes things kind of tough on you. So, never grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth, and we always deal with adversity. And, when your family splits up, it kind of hurts a lot, as a child and trying to pick sides and things of that nature. And so I just remember, just having a lot of anger issues as a kid, trying to deal with that and cope with that in different ways, which led me to getting into some trouble, kind of doing the wrong things, to, I guess, exercise how I was feeling inside. And so besides that point, both of my parents were very encouraging, very supportive. And even though, we had that good support system at home, that wasn't enough for me because I always wanted my parents back together. So I used to get into a little trouble, hanging out with the wrong crowd. I was always the youngest of the group, dealing with my cousins. And so, I was the one that had to go do all the dirty work, as a child, doing small things like running out of stores, getting chips and candy and things of that nature. But for the most part, we had fun. We had a good time, going to the parks facilities in summertime and partaking in the free lunch and all the activities and, just enjoying life, as kids, riding your bikes all over the neighborhood, going fishing, catching crawdads in the creek, all the fun stuff kids do. And I just remember a point in time, where these programs didn't exist anymore. They cut out these programs in the parks and the recreation centers, and we were kind of fending on our own, as teenagers, trying to find a direction in ourselves. And the positivity wasn't there. It was a lot of negativity in the streets, and we just became a product of our environments. Kind of how we grew up, in our latter years is that in order to make it out, you had to be a drug dealer, athlete, or a rapper. That's how you made it out the streets.
Yep.
And so, we tried our hands in a little bit of everything to kind of figure out our way. And all I know is, living that street life, and I'm not like a super street or nothing, but, there's consequences for that, and, I did a little time in juvenile hall and did a little county time, and I just had to realize that going that direction and that route is not the path for me, and it makes your life a lot harder.
Yeah.
So I would say though, overall, growing up, had a good family around, good folks. It was a lot of fun for the most part. I will say, times were trivial, especially in our teenage years.
Yeah.
A lot of violence. Growing up in Richmond, right around the corner from Richmond High School, called a drive-by city. It was drive-bys every day. That's when they started putting metal detectors in the schools. So it was real, and if you think about it, Oakland and Richmond, they were always on the top 5 of the murder capitals in the country. So, dealing with those type of environments, it was real crucial. And I can say at one point in my life, I was going to more funerals than birthday parties.
Yeah.
That's how serious it is out here.
Yeah, that sounds tough. And just to follow up on that, understanding that, it was a turning point, sound like, in your life from when your parents got divorced, right? That was a turning point for, trying to figure out, who you are, right, with that new situation. How did you cope through that and keep it going forward?
It was tough. I used to get into it a lot with my moms and, fight in school. I started ditching school, ditching class, a lot of negative behaviors, just trying to cope with, what was going on, not really knowing how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So I would say it was kind of a spiral down, so to speak, in a dark time in my life.
Yeah.
Very important for people to hear these stories, because I think often we sit in our own selves and in our own spaces, and we think that our struggle is unique to us, but you mentioning that is very important. So if you can expound a little bit more about your past and how your background kind of developed you today and who you are, how did you deal with those challenges of being, like, I think we had some prior discussions about what your family makeup is and your racial background and ethnicity. How did those challenges with your identity impact how you navigated a lot of the struggle, as you grew up?
Yeah, so, growing up in a biracial household, my father's African American, my mother, she's white. I always had to struggle with, not being white enough, not being black enough. So it made it tough just trying to find my identity, and it led to a lot of fights, a lot of scuffles, and definitely a lot of smack talking. We used to do the dozens all the time. So I got joked on about everything that you could imagine. And, that's what made me have the thick skin and tough skin that I have now. But, growing up now, I mean, even just getting my name right, Preston Pinkney, nobody could get Pinkney right. It's Pinkley, Pinky, so every joke that you could imagine, I've heard it and I was able to shrug it off.
Yeah.
But, coping with that, like I said, it just, as I got older, I started to understanding that it's not me that has the issue. It's other people trying to figure out where they belong in life. And so during that time, we just used to go at it. Like, you talk about me, I talk about you. And sometimes we got into some fights about it. And so that was like kind of our coping mechanism back then, dealing with our cousins and our family members and our friends.
But would you say those experiences, even though tough growing up, those experiences made you who you are today, but it also probably potentially thickened your skin so that you can handle pretty much anything? Would you say that would be true?
I definitely agree. I mean, like my pops, he's like the biggest smack talker. Like with him around, it was like Sanford and Son. He was Red Fox and I was Lamont.
Y'all had a red truck.
So it was a lot of fun in the household, and and it was seriousness too, but it was more fun than anything. And that's why go with the best with them, talk smack with the best of them.
So you mentioned, having that entrepreneurial spirit, right? And we heard that in your bio. How did that history of growing up in Oakland and Richmond, dealing with, splitting up, dealing with, being a biracial kid in the East Bay, how did that help you get that entrepreneurial spirit that you had? Because, I want you to talk a little bit about, how you grew up, flipping CDs, lemonade stands on the corner or what have you. But it sounds like you had at a young age an entrepreneurial spirit that was just budding. Tell us a little bit about, those stories and how you developed that, and how did you start as a young entrepreneur?
Yeah, well, the crew I was with, we always had high ambitions, and always knew that we wanted to achieve a lot in life. And like I said, the way that we were brought up is either in the dope game, you was gonna be an entertainer or the athlete. So of course, like every young kid, hoop dreams. I played hoop all my life. I was a pretty good hooper. Didn't have the talent skills, of the next level superstar type stuff. And I actually blew out my knee when I was 18, so all those dreams were cut off. And we started doing music. I don't know. I think I wrote my first rap song when I was 12 or 13 years old. Inspired by Too Short and Two Live Crew and some of those old school rappers. And so that was like something I was very passionate about. And so one of the first things we did, probably when I was about 15 or 16, we came across a 4-track recorder. And for those that don't know, that was like your first, chance to record your own music and your vocals with music without going to a big studio. And so just finding that piece of equipment and learning and figuring out how it worked to, you know, being able to learn the piano and start making beats and putting a Radio Shack mic together and making it all to come together, was like magic. And that was something positive that we could do. And so kind of what I did was I didn't really like, being in the streets. I sold a little weed and stuff like that. But, so I figured that was my passion, to do the music. And so I started doing a recording studio in my mom's living room, over there on Ring. And so cats used to come through. I used to charge for studio time, sell our little beats. That's when we got first started, on our entrepreneurial run. We was out doing shows, running around the Bay Area. And from that, I was able to flip that and get a professional studio in El Cerrito. And that's when I became my executive producer for our first album, Richard Torrey, Shattered Dreams. So I was a producer, executive producer, recording engineer, rapped on a couple tracks. And that album went on to get on the radio, airplay. We did concerts with 50 Cent, the Bomb concert, and, traveled the country. Selling CDs out the trunk. That was a lot of fun.
No, that sounds like a lot of fun. And you would say that introduced you to your first taste of entrepreneurial spirit. What are some of the successes and failures that you had then that led you to become even, more engaged in that entrepreneurial journey? Just for early on, what are some of the successes and failures? Because anytime you start a business, right, it's some good and bad to it. Some learning lessons you learn as a young folk going through that process. Tell us a little bit about some of those learning lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Well, nothing is easy. You always have your imagination. Plan is A, you start, and then B, you're successful. And there's a lot of peaks and valleys and dips that go with that. And It seems like, when you get started, it's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of effort. An example I had, so we had a group, and this is like more with the music tip. It was a whole group of us, and we needed to make some money so we could go to the studio and get our music done. And a lot of people didn't want to invest in the project. They didn't want to invest in themselves. And so we were just stymied. Nothing was really happening. And so that's when I had to make a decision for myself. Well, if we have 7, 8 people and everybody doesn't want to pull their weight, I'm not going to sit there and pull everybody's weight. So, I went ahead and invested in myself. I went to school to learn my craft, to study my craft. I practice every day so I get better at my craft. And those same people that we were working together, they became my clients because they didn't have the same dedication, the same discipline. So that was one of the obstacles. And then also too, there's a lot of people out there that don't want to see you successful. There's people that hate on your dreams, hate on you that you have the ambition and the nuts to go through and go for it. It's a scary situation when you're going out there trying something new, trying to be yourself, stand on your own 2 feet, because it's hard out there. It's hard to get money. Money is hard to come by. And, a lot of people, they either going to admire you for it or they're going to hate on you for it. And, my whole goal in life was try to make all my haters my employees. I want to employ all my haters, and that's how we looked at things, to keep us motivated. And you also always have your eye on the prize. Like no matter how hard the situation is, then you're either gonna go through your obstacles, you're gonna go around your obstacles, but you're never gonna stop what you're doing. And I don't care what it is that you're trying to accomplish, there's always gonna be something that gets in your way. And if you're really adamant about accomplishing your goals, no is never gonna be an option. You're never gonna give up. And that's kind of how my life kind of transitioned, and I got introduced to golf. I went from doing the music, which was positive in one aspect because it got me out of doing negative behavior, but also the type of music that we were promoting was negative, which was encouraging that same behavior, that's motivating our kids right now. And I had to make a choice. Do I want to continue down this road and promote negativity, or do I want to do something positive? And that's when I made the decision and got introduced into golf.
And let's talk about that transition, if you will. So you're out in the music scene, living your life, and you have a group of friends and associates that you have that's doing that lifestyle. And now you just talk about golf, right? Which is a whole different scene than the music scene and the people that normally frequent and partake in that sport. How did you make a transition? And the reason why that's important is because it's almost as if you had to redefine yourself and who you are to make that transition. Because the same people that I see on a golf course is not the same people I see sometimes at a club at 3 o'clock in the morning listen to a set.
Yeah, so, it was interesting. So when I had my studio on Ring, I had a good friend of mine, Phil Williams, a.k.a. Lil Jimmy. He's down in Atlanta right now doing his thing. He was working at a school in Oakland, and every day we would record a new song. And so the director of the Ace Kids golf program, Jeff Calloway at the time, was curious, and he always wanted to record a song. So he came to my studio to work on the song, and we ended up doing a whole album together. And one day, so that was over a year. We've been working for over a year. And one day he came to the studio. My mom told me I need to get a job, and he saw a bunch of job applications on my mixing console. He said if I need a job, I'd come work for him as the van driver. And so that's how I got my introduction to golf, picking the kids up from the rec centers and bringing them to the golf course. That was my first introduction.
So, wow. So,
oh, go ahead. So that's a very interesting point. Pivoting to what it takes for someone to be in the moment and say, my situation needs to change right now. Where do you think you pulled from when you said, okay, this is not working, I need to make a pivotal choice? Can you recall, like, what gave you that gut feeling of say, okay, if I don't do something now, right now in my life will go in the wrong direction? Can you pull from that at all? Like during the time when you made the transition from music to golf?
Well, it wasn't an instant transition. It took some time, but kind of what was going on, when I was younger, people used to tell me stuff and I was hard-headed and I wasn't listening to them. And so I got to a point in my life where, the things that I was doing wasn't working out all too well because I kept doing the same stupid stuff. So as opportunities started coming as I got older, I started piquing the interest. Well, let me see where this goes.
Yeah.
And so being a van driver and picking up the kids and taking them to the golf course led to the opportunity of going down to Pebble Beach.
Okay.
And this is the first time I ever seen Pebble Beach. That's down there in Monterey. They got 17-mile drive. You got to pay to go down 17-mile drive. And when you go down 17-mile drive, all you see is a bunch of mansions with luxury vehicles parked in the driveways. And for me, that was my first time ever seeing anything like that in real life. You see it on TV, but you don't believe that it's really like that. And so for me, going and having that experience and seeing that there's people really living like this, it just opened my eyes to a lot more opportunities that there's a lot more out there than what we see on BET and here on the radio stations and what we see around our neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what really sparked my interest to get involved with golf.
So you mentioned, growing up, born in Oakland, growing up in Richmond through those critical years, to being out there doing the music, to then transitioning to be a van driver for a youth golf program, right? And I think what I heard from you is that you got exposed on one trip going from East Bay to Monterey, right, to Pebble Beach, right, which is one of the most fabulous golf courses in the world, right, driving up the 17-mile and seeing mansions and everything that you see, right? It was that exposure that changed, right? And some of that exposure is what you're doing now and how you're trying to help your kids. But tell us about, that day, right? Because, right, you coming from Oakland, right? So you are Richmond and you leaving the hood, right? Then you get on the freeway and now you just see the Pacific Ocean. You see multi-million-dollar houses. You see Ferraris, Benzes, all those things. And then you go to the most immaculate golf course in the world. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, I just remember, the night before, Callaway told me, AP, we got a long ride, get your rest. And, so I got rest up and I remember joking with him. I was like, so how do I wear my sweater? Do I wear my sweater tied up around my shoulders like Carlton? Because this was a whole new experience. What's the dress code? And so I remember us joking about that, but really getting down there, going and parking. We had a park at the university. Then you hop on one of those big coach buses, big comfortable coach buses, and you go down 17-mile drive. And I just remember going down there, and we with the kids, and we playing That's My House. We wasn't even playing That's My Car. We was playing That's My House, and we got down there, and then as you get closer and closer, you just see the water glimmering through the trees. You see glimpses of the golf course, and it seemed like as soon as we pulled up, we just heard a loud roar, and it just gave me goosebumps. I think Tiger Woods just birdied the third hole, and this is the first time I ever heard of Tiger Woods. And that day, we was able to go follow him around the golf course and see him beat that field. And I think he won by like 12 or 15 strokes over everybody over that weekend. So it was just incredible just watching them like right in front of us because we had the kids. So we just say, excuse me, push our way all the way to the front ropes. And we got to like see them right in front of us, 6, 7 feet, 10 feet away, which was a beautiful thing to see somebody with that talent and that ability in his prime. To watch them do that at that type of facility. And what also too, what it was for me too, that was like one of the greatest experiences I had, up to the point in my lifetime. That was something very positive.
No, I remember that tournament. Tiger dominated the field in that one. And to be able to see history up close and personal is great, I know when Tiger hits that ball, it's a different sound that rings off that club when he hits that ball. Mm-hmm. So I can imagine for you that addiction now to the game, understanding that was your first really big introduction to like major pro golf. How was that the turning point and where you went from, Oakland, getting into a little bit of the stuff, then getting into your music and having that entrepreneurial spirit to then transitioning to the greens of a golf course?
Well, it's interesting. That kind of piqued my interest, and I started taking it a little bit more seriously. And at the same time, while I'm entering into this realm of golf, that's when I started, my more entrepreneurial into the music aspect of it. And it wasn't until I think this was going on about 2000, around 2006. I've been doing it for a few years, and I started building a rapport with our youth. And what I realized from the youth was that I was very influential on them. They trusted what I said, they respected what I said. I was a positive influence on their life. The parents complimented me for the work that we did, and how they saw a change in their kids because of our conversations. And so, I was listening to the music and looking at the people that were coming to my studio and what they were about. And, I came to a crutch in my life to where, do I want to continue down this road of doing negativity, or do I want to continue down the road of positivity? And and the way I looked at it, positivity always wins. And so I made a conscious decision to shut down my facility and go full time with this golf. And it wasn't really the golf aspect. The golf aspect was cool. It's kind of the hook, but it was the impact on the kids that I was after. Because even though I got into a lot of trouble as a youth, I had a lot of mentors and people that got on me and say, hey, you better than that. You need to take advantage of these opportunities. And like I said, this was another opportunity that fell into my lap, and I decided to take it. I had no clue that this is where we would be. Here we are in 2024.
Yeah, so I wanted to know from you, because this is such a good conversation about your industry, and for us to learn more about golf. And would you consider yourself an influencer, a teacher, or a technical professional? And if somebody is looking to get into the profession or your industry, how should they ideally construct their career or their career goals in that industry?
Yeah, I would say my path to this is very unorthodox. I wasn't aware of the professionalism of the steps to become a PGA teaching professional. I really didn't understand the whole golf industry when it comes to golf course positions on the golf course when I came in. So I was fairly ignorant to that. My whole attitude was to help our kids become positive and productive citizens using the game of golf. So I call myself I'm not a professional golfer, but I am definitely a golf professional. I'm an instructor, and also I'm a visionary. And so I try to think of all the ways that if I was a kid, what would have liked to see for me to get involved with the sport. And with our program, which made it very successful, was we had a transportation aspect where we pick the kids up, we take them out of their communities, and we bring them to the golf course where they're out in the fresh air, they're out in that green grass, and they're able to get away and escape from the hardships, even if it's for a couple hours a day. And that for mental health is very, very helpful when dealing and coping with your stressful situations. And over the years, as the program transitioned, that transportation opportunity wasn't available for our kids. We were dealing with COVID and some other things. And when you're dealing with, budgets and things like that, you really don't have any control over that. You have to roll with the punches. And so me being a visionary, I wanted to continue to bring golf to the community because, that was the outlet for me. And I feel like if it could change my life, it could change other people's lives. And I've seen how many lives it impacted over the years. I've introduced over 10,000 kids to golf. I run into folks all the time and say, hey, I remember you're Coach P, because when I was a little kid, I was in your golf program. And this is what I'm doing now. This is where I'm at now. So some of the initiatives that we're pushing right now is we opened up an indoor golf training facility in downtown Oakland called Primetime Golf. And it's very accessible. We're in a transportation corridor. We have a bus stop right in front of our door, BART's right around the corner. So instead of trying to bring kids up to the golf course, we brought the golf course here. And what we are offering are the two most state-of-the-art golf simulators through GolfZone. We also have a Zen Stage putting green, which is on hydraulics, so we can practice whatever putting sections or putting opportunities that we want. If we want uphill lies, side hill lies, and with the GolfZone simulators, We have the three textures of grass. We have the fairways, the bunkers, the greens. We have the moving swing plate. So when you hit your ball in the fairway, the floor moves to emulate the lies. So this is the most technically advanced simulation space definitely in the Bay Area, if not in the whole state of California. And also with our other partners, we also have a mobile golf simulator that was donated by the Drive Box that we bring out to the community, and we tow it with a Toyota Tundra that was provided by Toyota Walnut Creek. And so we've been very blessed with that. And so we're doing a lot of activations of bringing golf to the community instead of bringing the community to the golf course.
No, that's some
That's
great work.
amazing.
Bringing people outside and then indoors and having those experiences that they can have with the golf. But let's circle back to your time when you're a driver. You're putting out a lot of more effort and energy into golf itself, right? You shut down the studio. You put everything in it. What was that change? 'Cause I know you had a change in your family dynamics, right? You had a daughter, if I remember correctly. So some of
Yeah,
that
so
change.
definitely my wife, she got pregnant, and we definitely needed more stable income, some benefits as well. So that was a major factor, getting moving on to a full-time position. But also it was more of an educational piece, because now I'm taking on the role as a director, and mind you, I was just a van driver.
Yep.
I've never been trained to do any of these things. When I took the position, there was no training. It was, here you have the position, you have some golf clubs, you have a van, go figure it out. And so I took the initiative, and I actually went to took some grant writing classes, courses. I had some good mentors around me that was kind of leading me in the right direction, and letting me know, where to seek funding sources, because we didn't have a budget for this program either.
Yeah.
So that was the other caveat to it. So we're just making it happen off of nothing, and so we had to be very creative, be resourceful. I started getting donations to clubs, reached out to some funding partners like the Olympic Club Foundation. They've been funding us for, I would say at least, 20 years or so. So they've been a great partner. The USGA had a big grant at that time. And so we just had to be very creative with how we operated, to make things happen.
So we go back to your hustle days, right? You get in this position and you hustling up, the resources so that you can have a good program. But your vision, right, has always and is always supporting the kids. So tell us a little bit about how that program developed, right? It went from, hey, here goes some bag and some clubs. This is what we need you to do. You figure out how to make it happen, right? So you start bringing in these funding sources, but also talk about the kids that are getting now exposed, because you mentioned you had 10,000 kids. Let's talk about those kids, because from my understanding, those kids came from all walks of life, didn't even understand what a golf course was, let alone where one was at. So let's talk about, some of them kids that you inspired to be, right? When you got them up there.
Yeah. So initially when we started, it was always a quality program. And we always work with maybe 100 kids, throughout the year. But I wanted to change that. So my first goal was to go from 110 kids to 250 kids. I had to figure out what was that like how was that operations, you know. And so, we started partnering with more rec centers. We started doubling up, our participant numbers. And then through that, I was able to get more grant funding so I could start hiring staff. Because when I literally took over the program, I was the driver, I was the instructor, I was the program director, I was the grant writer, I was the marketer, I was everything. And, then I look at the next year, oh, I got a driver now. Then the next year I got a driver and another coach. Then the next year I got another coach, so we started forging other partnerships. So we had a great partnership with Camp Sweeney, working with kids in juvenile hall. And we kind of turned that golf program, not just golf, but into a job training program as well, where they learn golf course maintenance, partnering with Touchstone Golf at the Lake Chabot Golf Course. And so we had, I don't know, maybe 20 to 40 kids a year coming through that program. And out of those 20 kids, 6 of them will go through the training program, and then 2 of them will get a job. So we started doing that. we started doubling up and tripling up the rec centers in the summertime, to where, just in the summertime alone, hitting up all the rec centers, we have 210 kids coming to the golf course. We had a 10 to 12 session, 1 to 3 session, and a 4 to 6 session. And that's what we would do all day for 8 weeks. We helped build up the girls' OAL high school golf. We got that reinvigorated with Skyline, Tech, and Mac, or not Mac, Oakland High School. And that was done about 15, 16 years ago, working with Coach Sal, because we used to work with him at Bret Hart. We used to work with the middle schools, the elementary schools, the rec centers. And at one point in time, when it was really cracking, I was the acting sports supervisor, and we had 60 kids a day up at the golf course. I was sending buses all over the city, picking up the kids and bringing them to the golf course, just increasing the reach. And that's what it was all about. And even before I even got to that extreme, I was just so much of a hustler getting these kids on the golf course. I remember going to Ira Jenkins, and I pull up. Normally the kids outside waiting for me, and nobody was there. And so I'm talking to staff. I'm like, "Hey, where my kids at?" It's like, "Oh, they don't want to play golf." So I'll go over to the gym, and I start talking to the youngsters. I'm like, "Hey, y'all supposed to be lined up for golf." They're like, "Nah, man, we hoopers. We don't play golf." And I try to plead with them, talking about Michael Jordan and some of the other athletes that play golf, and they weren't messing with me. So I made them a deal. I said, "Look, I used to hoop. Let's play for it. So if I beat you in basketball, then you guys go play golf. And if you beat me, I'll never talk to you again." So make a long story short, I beat their best player, told him to get on the van, and we had a 8-week session with him until basketball season started. And what kind of developed out of that, that mentorship, because like I say, we just don't bang golf balls. We really have some deep conversations. We spitting some game, we're giving some scenarios, and we're building roadmaps. And maybe 5 years later, one of those young men, is now 19, 20 years old, and he got a deep voice. He's tall, really don't recognize him, and he approaches me and said, "Hey, Coach P, you remember me? You beat me in basketball, made me go play golf. I remember everything you told me about keeping my grades right, about staying focused on hoop, and doing all the right things." And he said, Man, I got a full ride scholarship. I'm playing basketball in college. And, I try to tell my friends, but they didn't want to listen. But, I just remember what you told me, and I want to thank you for it. That's, why we do this work. That's just one of the highlights right there. Dealing with Mr. Davis, who's now got his master's degree, working on his doctorate, and is working with a major nonprofit here in the Bay Area to help curb violence.
Oh, that's wonderful. If you could speak or expand a little bit more about how, because that's amazing, and I think that more people need to hear, especially young people need to hear about these opportunities out here. But when you start to assess as a young person, okay, how do I determine what my next move is? What should I value over money? And how do I determine how to play my passion and the things that I want to do in this life? What would you advise somebody as a youth? How do you determine to choose your passion over money? Because you don't initially get rewarded for doing the things that you love. But eventually, if you stick with it over time, you'll able to do the things that you love and still reap the rewards of it. So how do you speak to those people that are sitting looking at this interview and saying, I want to follow my passion, but it's not going to provide me a house or a home. So what are some of my options in that moment?
Well, for me, what I always explain to people is you never do anything for the money. You always do it for the education and learning aspect of it. So whatever job you're doing, if you make it about the money, if you're not getting paid enough, you're not going to do a great job. But if you stay true with yourself and you do your best no matter what it is, then the money is going to come. And it's a double bonus if you're doing your passion, because now you're excited about getting up and going to work. But never do anything for money. Always do it to learn something. You got to get something out the deal, because it's always going to help you later in life. And I can say for me, all the steps that I did, moving forward, I'm college educated, but I don't have a degree. When I went to school, I was going to school for music. So I took business class, I took music class, I took recording class, I took graphics class. I took accounting classes. I took everything that I needed to know so I could start my business because I knew I wanted to start a business. I never saw myself as a worker or an employee. I never saw myself like that. But sometimes, you have to put your pride aside and you got to reevaluate your situation and do what's right at the time because you can always come back and go to your passion at any time, once you get your situations together. So my advice would be to never work for money, always work for the education piece. And if you can find your passion, go at it hard because that's the only way that you really going to be happy in life.
Absolutely. And so, being on the golf course, inspiring these youngsters, right, allowed you to grow in the industry. So you started off, driving a van, right? Then you run a program. Talk about, some of the experiences it exposed you to. I know you mentioned you at Lee Elder, right? You met some of the top golfers, and now you're sitting in boardrooms, right? Talk about that experience and growth for you, just being in your passion, doing the things that you love, helping youth, and how that exposed you to a bigger scene in the golf world.
So kind of almost in line with what we just talked about, right? When you following your passion and you following something and you stay committed to the process, opportunities come your way. And so me being focused and doing this for over 20 plus years, there's no denying that the passion is there, that the work is there. It's a proven concept, a proven track record. So opportunities come their way. Just backing up in sequence, like I said, in 2000 was the first time I went down to Pebble Beach. And here we are in 2024. And now I'm starting my fifth year on the board of directors for the Northern California Golf Association, which is the largest amateur sports or golf association across the whole United States with over 217,000 members and 1,000 affiliate clubs. And kind of how that came about was I was at the Youth on Course annual meeting. And what Youth on Course is, it's a program by the NCGA, and kids sign up, become members, and they play golf for $5 or less all across the country. And when I was at the annual meeting, I did a presentation with the first tee of the national first tee was there, and a very prominent program in San Jose, a really great junior golf program. And when I told my story and my experience about how we work with the youth out of here, especially our at-risk youth, I got a warm reception at the end. And Gail Rogers was the president at the time, and she, approached me and said, "You're exactly what we need to be on the board of directors of the Northern California Golf Association to give that different perspective and a different background, because everybody knows that golf has the connotation of being an elitist sport, and and I was honored to be presented with that. And to that point, I think at the time when I joined, I was the only member that didn't belong to a country club. That was on the board of directors. It's changed a little bit now, but that's how exclusive of a club it is when it comes to being at these levels. And what I like about it is we have decision making power, and we're doing more programs for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and getting more kids involved, creating grant opportunities for our local programs. I know since we started this grant initiative 2 years ago, we've brought in over $50,000 to Oakland junior golf programs here, Lake Chabot Junior Golf Academy and the Metropolitan Junior Golf Academy. So those are some of the things that we're standing on to keep golf growing, because it's what's needed. And to be honest with you, Oakland is, believe it or not, has one of the largest junior golf scenes here. We have the Lake Chabot Junior Golf Academy. We have Eights Kids Golf. We got the Metropolitan Junior Golf Academy. We got the First Tee, Oakland. We have another program that just started. I don't know why I cannot remember their names, but that's with Howard Oliver and Gene Beckham. And then Alameda's right next door as well, and they have a prolific golf program. So golf is really prolific right here in the Bay Area, and it's really grown a lot. And so to be part of helping that growth and helping our kids get this access is just unbelievable. The type of talent that we have. We have a young man, Marlon Jones, who's been through our programs. He's a freshman at San Jose State. He got a golf scholarship and is playing on the golf team. Right here from our community. So it's really real when you think about these opportunities and how they come because of your dedication, your persistence, your commitment, never giving up, overcoming your obstacles. All that stuff is tried and true. The situation with Lee Elder came through partnership that we had with Eat Learn Place, Stephen and Aisha Curry's foundation. Steph is a big proponent of golf. He's an avid golfer. He supports the Howard golf team. Howard University golf team brought it all the way back. And they I think they were the number one team this year. But we had an opportunity to celebrate Lee Elder before he passed away for being recognized as the first African American to play in the Masters. And they did that with a 1975 hat. It was a Steph Curry hat from his Curry brand. They gave that to the kids. They also scholarship 75 kids to come through the program and honor Lee Elder for 1975 being in the Masters. And I'm just glad that he was properly recognized and honored by Masters at Augusta before he passed away. And so it was great. We did a Zoom meeting because it was over COVID. And we had a great conversation for about 10, 15 minutes. And I think there's like a minute clip or video of it floating around online somewhere. But it was great meeting him and sharing that little time. And I also know his friend, Arthur Lee, who used to be his manager and his best friend. I'm about to see him next week at the PGA show.
That's wonderful. So if I'm a youngster in the United States and I don't have or live next to this wonderful community that you've helped to create in the golf community in Northern California, I live like in Southern Maryland or in Chicago or whatever. How can I, as a youth who has, needs to appeal to the people that control my activities, how can I say, I want to participate in programs like this? I want to use your program in my city as a starting point to say, I want to learn golf, but I live in the middle of nowhere. How can these young people be inspired to maybe encourage the people around them to give them access? Because I think what's amazing about what you started and how you connected the dots is the transportation aspect and the access and how these youths were able to take advantage of these programs because you created transportation, a transportation hub for them to get there. So if there were kids listening to this somewhere, hopefully, or their parents saying, man, I wish my kid could be a part of this. Like, how could you maybe inspire them to start the engine so they can start to have these programs available to them in their cities?
Yeah, well, we definitely looking to expand and, move out of Oakland. And help facilitate these opportunities. So we're willing to partner with schools, golf courses, and other institutions so we could build up a vibrant program as well. But I definitely would encourage all parents, as a start, to check in with your local golf course and see what kind of programs they have available.
Absolutely.
And I would say transportation is tough. It's very expensive these days. And that's why a lot of people don't do it, just because of the cost that's involved. But yeah, that's the first thing I would do is check in with the local golf course, see what opportunities, and if anybody is willing to partner, I would love to have that conversation, and we can bring our programs out to your city, coming to a city near you.
That's what I'm talking about. So I think you mentioned something critical in transition into your prime time golf, where literally, right, especially here in Maryland, I got 8 feet of snow outside right now, right? And so at the end of the day, I'm not going to a golf course because it's not available to me 6-7 months out of the year. So talk about why you opened up your primetime golf. What is it that you're trying to do and how you're trying to not only do it here in the Bay Area, you're trying to do this nationally, internationally.
That's right. Yeah. So as I stated before, access to the golf courses is tough. Transportation is expensive. So we wanted to figure out a way that we could bring golf to the community because it's such an incredible sport when it comes to networking, when it comes to scholarship opportunities for our youth, when it comes to just providing a different space. Most of the golfers that we run into, they're business owners or they're CEOs or they're executives or they're directors of organizations. So there's a lot of net worth in golf, and what we always share with the youth is your network is your net worth. And so when you're around people in positions that are decision makers, these are opportunities that you can have to further your career and further develop yourself. And so that's why we wanted to bring this type of space to the downtown area, so people don't have to go all the way to the golf courses. Their office building might be 5 minutes around the block, and they could just come right here, get their golf in. They can host their meetings. It's a great space for the kids to come after school, give them something positive to do, until their parents get off of work, because that's the most time where the kids get into trouble is
Yeah,
after school.
absolutely.
That 3 to 6 period. That's when all those things happen. So we wanted to give them that safe space to come here where they call it their own, and don't get it twisted. Even though things are better, there's still racism and all that stuff in the golf world. It's getting better, but people still feel that. And so we have a safe space where you come as you are. We don't judge anybody. Everybody's welcome. And people really like this concept and this idea. And the other way that we engage as well is we also have a mobile golf simulator that we bring out to the community. So we can go anywhere, to the schools, to the rec centers. We can pull up in front of your business. We go to the park. We go anywhere and introduce golf. And I really love doing those community events as well. Just seeing the smile on the kids' faces, even though they never held a golf club, they feel intimidated. But now they get a chance to swing the club. They hit it a couple of times, they feel good, and now they want to learn more about it. And also, what's so great, when we go out into the community, we're giving away golf clubs. We have these plastic sets designed by Robert Baker and Logical Golf, and it's co-branded with Eat, Learn, Play. And so we're able to give these clubs out to the community, and the kids can take these clubs home and practice with them. They could play with them in the park. They could play with them in their backyards. They don't have to worry about breaking any windows. And when they want to get more involved in the game and get a little bit more serious, now they come to our facility, and then that's where we game them up. And I look at Prime Time as a manufacturing plant for young golfers, bringing the next generation of successful golfers out into the game.
Yeah, no, prime time, it sounds like you are a disruptor in a space, meaning you're breaking down barriers. Not only you have office in downtown Oakland, a spot where people can come and really do their things before work, after work, weekends, but also this mobile unit, you're able to go into communities and really, showcase what golf is about and breaking down some of the barriers. Talk about why and how you did that and what led you to that, because I'm certain that you saw that it was a gap there, right? You mentioned transportation was difficult. Now, listen, I'm coming to you. Talk about the reason why you did that, not only in Oakland, but how that program can expand throughout the country.
Yeah, so I have a good friend named Adil Yang, and he's the CEO and co-founder of Drivebox. And Drivebox is a company that manufactures trailers with simulators in them. And I ran into him a few years back, and he used to bring his Drivebox up, once a month. It has, the state-of-the-art simulator in there. And he used to come and work with our kids, and we used to have so many kids come through his trailer. He said, Preston, I'm really impressed with what you're doing, the work that you're doing, and I really want to support you. I want to help you out. And, we're going to figure something out. And so last year, he reached out to me and said, I have this prototype box. My first one I made, it'll be perfect for you to take out and teach the kids with. And so as we were discussing this, one of his business partners' name is Lynn Nelson, and she used to also be the former CEO of the NCGA, Northern California Golf Association, and she did a lot of other work as well in the golf community. And she suddenly passed away, and it kind of hit everybody hard. And so what he did is he donated the dry box in her honor, so we could go introduce more kids to the game. And so I was very thankful and grateful to Adil and his team for making this contribution. But we had an issue because although we had this trailer, we didn't have a way to tow it. And so I reached out to Brad Barnett over at Toyota Walnut Creek because he's been helping us out in the past with our tournaments and host sponsors and bringing players out. And I told him our issue. He said, let me see what I could do. And lo and behold, he gave me a call back within a couple months and said, "Hey, man, you still looking for a vehicle?" I said, "Yeah." So you don't have to worry about it. We got you. He reached out to corporate, and they decided that they wanted to donate a vehicle to tow the trailer, so we keep teaching, introducing kids to golf. And we did a big activation back at the end of September, and we have a video of it on our website as well, and on YouTube. So everybody is welcome to view that as well. www.thepinkneyfoundation.org. But yeah, so that was the crux of that, to help with our vision of expanding the game. So our mission right now is to introduce 20,000 kids to the game of golf in the next 3 years.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. We want to introduce even more, right? And so,
That's right.
so I'm glad that what you're doing with prime time golf.
Okay. Again, I can't thank you enough for sharing all of this wonderful story. I want to hear you say or speak on, just for a second, for me anyway, for my benefit. If you hear, or you're trying to do something and you hear 1,000 no's, how do you take those 1,000 no's to get that one yes?
It's just persistence. So that's what we learned from the CD game. Everybody that walks down the street, you ask them if they want to buy a CD, because you never know who's going to buy that CD. You could look at somebody and be like, I know for sure they going to buy a CD, and they going to say no. And you could be like, I know for sure they not going to buy a CD, and they the ones to say yes. So you have to ask everybody, and you just have to be used to hearing no. And this is something that I started incorporating lately, is to make it a goal. Every day is to hear 10 no's before you get a yes, right? So that's your goal, to get 10 no's before you get a yes.
Yeah.
And if you go 1, 2, 3, get a yes, then you're not done yet. You got to keep going till you get 10 no's in a row before you get a yes. And that's how you overcome that, because no is not a bad thing. It just wasn't for that person at that time. And it's funny too, because you can ask somebody today, they'll say no, but you ask them a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, now they're gonna say yes.
Yeah.
So also keep your rapport and keep your relationships. Keep building those relationships, because not every time is your time, and that's the other thing that I keep in perspective too, that everything comes when it's your time, when you're ready, when you do all the work, then you're gonna get to your rewards. And that's why I always say that you just got to keep focused and keep your eye on the prize. Don't do anything for the money. Do it for your passion, do it for knowledge, and the money's going to come.
No, absolutely. So, in your journey from Oakland to Richmond, to in the music scene, to driving the van, to teaching young kids golf, at the golf course, to moving into a boardroom, to now having your foundation, and talk a little bit about your foundation, to now having prime time golf, right? Talk about the ups and downs, the journey, but more importantly, continue to talk about what you see in the future. What is it, the next 10 years, the next decade, the next 2 decades, what is it that you see coming out of prime time, coming out your ventures, coming from you and your future?
Well, definitely we're going to be a manufacturing plant for junior golf development. You're going to see a lot of golfers going to college, playing on these junior tours. We definitely going to get a couple pros out of it. It's a very competitive process, but that's a vision that, that we're going to keep to a high standard. Also, with the growth of what we're doing, we're going to see prime time in other cities. We want to grow nationally, internationally, so we could spread this good word, and also teach these kids and give them something positive and productive to do. And in addition, with our foundation, we also teach entrepreneurship. We also teach financial literacy. So these are all passions of ours that we like to share. My wife and I, we're the co-founders of the foundation. Her background is in banking. She's been doing that for 20 plus years. She's won awards for financial literacy classes. I've won awards for youth development. I'm a 2023 Jefferson Award recipient. A number of local accolades. So, everything that we do is passion driven. So we're looking at the future to grow and scale to reach, hundreds and thousands of kids, to have our flag planted in multiple cities and states across the country, and to be international with Primetime and the Pinkney Foundation and our flagship program, Ace Kids Golf.
So you went from flipping CDs out the trunk to driving the van to having a multi-million-dollar operation.
Absolutely.
Tell our viewers and our audience what it takes, what it took for you to get there, and some nuggets that they can use so they can continue to reach and push their dreams forward.
So my father-in-law, he has this saying: every time I come around, my hands turn into cups. And that's because I'm always asking. I'm always asking. We need help. We need support. We're always asking. What I hate to hear the most from folks is, I would have supported you if I would have known about it. So definitely keep up your marketing, your content, keep up your emails, make sure all that stuff is in the correct order. So you always give constant communication to your audience. Always recognize your donors, your partners, because that's the common courtesy, respectful thing to do. And just realize that, this is a village type of situation. There's not one person that's doing this by themselves. We have so many people helping us make things happen. I can't get on here and say I just did this all by myself, because I'll be telling a bold-faced lie. It's the community that helps out. It's our board members that helps out. It's our family members. It's our friends. It's our network. It takes a village. And right now I'm going from a village to a nation, because we really have a lot to do to change the outcome for our youth. It's real serious out here. I feel bad for our kids, and they need these opportunities, and we're at a war right now with the streets, because the streets are winning, especially out here in Oakland. People are scared to come outside because there's so much violence. There's so much theft. There's so much homelessness. I mean, it looks like a third world country, and it's sad. It's real sad. So we really need to come together and stand together and stand strong. Golf is my passion, but it's more to it. It's just helping people become their best selves, to where they want to be involved and get engaged with the process, so they could be positive parts of the community. And so that's what we want to bring to the whole country.
Absolutely.
So, again, thank you so much for sharing that. If there is one thing that you can share or look back in your journey that you could change, would you change anything?
I wouldn't change anything, because my every situation that I've been through, a learning experience, and if I didn't go through that situation, I wouldn't learn how to deal and cope with it. The thing is, when you go through situations and you don't learn from your mistakes, and you keep doing the same thing over and over and over, it's called insanity. And so the best way for you is to learn from your mistakes, so you get to your next mistake, so you can overcome that challenge. And it's okay to ask for help. Nobody knows everything. Reach out to your circle, to your uncles, your aunties, your grandparents, your elders, because they've been here and done this. Like, we're not reinventing none of this stuff. You have your team of advisors that help you get through things, and it's okay to cry and to be mad and to be upset, because all of these emotions come to it. It's just not glitters and gold. It's a tough road. It's a tough grind. You got to have a thick skin. And you can't take anything personal. Just think of it as a game. It's business. It's a game. Nothing is personal, right? If somebody says yes, you happy, you excited. If you say no, you just keep it moving. You're not even worried about it. You can't take anything offensive, because you don't know what other people are going through in their life. And
Absolutely.
for you to feel certain type of ways about people, all that's going to do is make you mad and upset. Only you can control your emotions and your mindset. You can't control anybody else's feelings or emotions or anything like that. So don't take anything personal.
So for our folks that want to get in contact with you and looking at this video, let them know how they can get in contact with Coach P and get a little bit more information on the stuff that you're doing. How can they reach out and get in contact with you?
Definitely. So you can reach out. You can call me on my cell, 510-367-3001, 510-367-3001. You could also send me an email, Preston at Pinkney, Pinkney Foundation.org. That's Preston at the PinkneyFoundation.org. Check out our websites, primetimegolf.org, acekidsgolf.org, and the PinkneyFoundation.org. And these are all wonderful programs that we bring into the table. I know we talked a lot, but there was a couple, one initiative that I wanted to bring to the table as well. It's our Girls Love Golf program, which is a great program for our girls. We get them out on the course. We teach them sports psychology, fitness, nutrition training, and I bring the LPGA pros out to come work with them exclusively, for those clinics. So that's a good program that we operate as well. We have great partners with USF golf team, with the Cal Berkeley golf team, with the OAL high school golf teams. They help us out with our young people, so I just wanted to thank all those folks as well, because they really do a great job, and what they do is very impactful in helping us with our mission.
Absolutely. So thank you for that. We definitely, excited that you're working with not only the men and the youth, you're working with the women and the young ladies and getting them introduced to this game, and that's critical. So if there's one last thing you want to leave with our audience to motivate them, to let them know that they can do it, let them know that they can reach from a driver to the boardroom, to owning your own foundation in your operation, what would you leave our audience with?
What I would say is make your goal and start taking steps to that goal. If you write down a goal or 10 goals and you look up next week and you haven't achieved any of them, that means you're stagnant. So once you write a goal, go knock it out. And tomorrow's not promised, so do everything today. Don't put off anything till tomorrow, because you might not be here tomorrow, or somebody else might not be here tomorrow. So make everything urgent so you can get your goals and your tasks accomplished.
Well, if Oakland has not seen the asset in you, I want to thank Oakland on their behalf for thanking you to giving all your wonderful gifts to that city and to that area and to the North California. And we hope that you share your gifts with the rest of the world, of course, especially over here in Maryland.
Absolutely.
We need more programs like this for our kids. We just need it. And I hope that more people recognize this and say, this is the time for me to become a part of something great like the Pinkney Foundation. What are your last thoughts, Jay?
Absolutely. I thank you, Preston, for giving us, your journey. Your journey included some ups and downs, some trials, some tribulations, but you persevered. You ran through those obstacles and you kept going. And now you're at a level where not only you continue to bring people up, you can get back, right? And that's a big transition. And we're glad to see you doing it. So thank you for joining our podcast. Thank you for giving us these nuggets. I'm Dr. J.
I am Dr. C.
And thank you for watching Two Doc Minds.